The hustle of life. Life, the never-ending stream carrying us from one day to the next, from one moment to the next, fueled by our mundane routines, our day-to-day dealings, our decisions, our work, our grind, so as to speak. The rituals we have all become part of, perhaps even without trying, even without realizing. But beyond these rituals, beyond these dead sands of habit, there are things in our lives beyond our controls. Instances, circumstances we find ourselves in where we have no power over how or why we are stuck in that situation. Take, for instance, a fine morning where we go to work and in the evening, when it's time to return, a storm has started. Or perhaps on our way to work, a huge traffic jam, making us late for work, even when we left 1 hour early. Now, what if these uncontrollable circumstances and events in our lives that we find ourselves in, what if they are shaped by forces beyond our perception? What if there are beings so advanced that they can control and prophesize these events? Their motives unclear, their intentions unknown. On November 15th, 1966, two young couples from Point Pleasant, West Virginia, reported to the police that they saw a strange creature while driving. A black creature, they claimed, with dark red glowing eyes, about 7 feet tall, and white wings. The creature apparently had this hypnotic effect on the couples with its dark red glowing eyes. Over the next few days, more and more people reported similar sightings, and thus local newspapers started to cover the news. Although authorities reasoned the sightings, stating it to be a large heron, the buzz of the sightings had already caught the attention of many people. In December 15th, 1967, the Silver Bridge, a suspension bridge over the Ohio River connecting Point Pleasant and Gallipolis, collapsed, leading to the tragic death of 46 people. This incident gave rise to the now popular legend of the Mothman, connecting the sightings at Point Pleasant to the collapse of the bridge. The legend states that the increased sightings of these mysterious dark creatures around a place often points towards an upcoming ominous event in that place. As such, in 1999, a Georgian newspaper claimed that the increased Mothman sightings in Moscow, Russia, as foreshadowing of the Russian apartment bombings. So, clearly, real or not, the Mothman serves as an interesting subject of discussion. With the public interest so high, it was only a matter of time before the Mothman became a part of the urban horror folklore. And to do this, in 1975, John Alva Keene, an American journalist and ufologist, wrote a book titled The Mothman Prophecies, claiming that the Mothman sightings and the Silver Bridge collapse were indeed connected, further popularizing this entity in the American households. In 2002, this book was adapted into a film of the same name. Now, being a horror enthusiast and craving for some good old supernatural action, I tuned in to watch this movie. And in the end, I would say I have mixed feelings. John Klein. Yes, really, that's his name in the film. John Klein is a successful journalist working in one of the most popular mainstream media channels. Happily married, a good successful life, he's got it all. Until he gets hit by the curse of horror films. You know, a picture perfect subject, completely appended by the horrors to come in their life, is the old staple of horror movies at this point. Anyways, things go south when his wife Mary sees something on the road while driving at night, causing her to lose control, crash, and end up at a hospital, only to be revealed later that she has what we call a glioblastoma, a rare tumor in the brain. She passes away tragically, but not before conveying to John the visions she has been having. Visions of some ghostly creature. Now, from here on, the plot of the movie picks up when John finds himself at Point Pleasant in trail of the mystery surrounding his wife's death. His life at this point almost like a trance now, where he does not even know how he ended up in Point Pleasant in the first place, as if he was summoned there. The rest of the movie is basically what happens at Point Pleasant and John's encounters with the supernatural entity. Speaking of the Mothman, it is interesting to note how they are portrayed in the movie. The entity is surely supernatural, dark, and mysterious. But unlike a lot of the horror antagonists that we see in books and movies, it is not openly hostile to the characters in the movie. It talks directly to John and another local of Point Pleasant named Gordon, introducing itself as Ingrid Cold. We see Ingrid Cold being the cause for a lot of events throughout the film, including manipulating the characters, making them do certain things, prophesizing upcoming disasters, but in a strange lack of hostile kind of way. There is never much direct hostility in Ingrid Cold's actions. Why then does it do the things it does? No clear answer is ever deciphered in the film. Ingrid Cold's motives, objectives remain unclear, and that makes it an interesting supernatural entity. Apparently, the moth people, well, I call them that, but they appear differently to different people. Apparently, they have been around forever, prophesizing upcoming disasters, influencing people's minds, manipulating them, etc., etc. Now, all of this builds up a very interesting premise with a good setup, interesting set of events, and I'm not gonna lie, it kept me at the edge of my seat out of anticipation of what is to come, if not for horror. Yeah, that's another thing about this movie. It's not very scary. It does not seem to aim to be scary, so I guess that's perfectly okay in my books. I had understood that this was more of a mystery thriller than a horror movie, and that was fine by me. Now, this may not be fine by you, so tread with caution and manage your expectations before watching this film. Now, the ending. That was where I was let down. Slightly, a little bit, maybe more than a little bit. Let me explain why. So, in Point Pleasant, John befriends a cop named Connie. Now, in their initial interactions, Connie once revealed to John of dreaming that she had been in an accident and she had fallen down in a water body and was floating in the water with presence around her. But then she lets go and drowns in the depths of the water, only to hear a strange voice saying, "Wake up, number 37," to to which she wakes up from her dream. Now, this scene does not make a lot of sense initially in the film when it is shown, but this becomes relevant in the end when, following real-life incidents, the Silver Bridge collapses, with Connie and her car falling down into the water. John, who had already been given a premonition of sorts by Ingrid Cold about this incident, rushes and jumps into the water, swimming to the depths and finding Connie trapped in her car. And John miraculously saves her. Yes, Connie is saved in the end, despite her own dream, which can be considered a premonition, where she dies. Now, this is somewhat interesting, but somewhat a letdown for me as well. Throughout the film, we have been led to believe that whatever these supernatural entities, whatever Mothman prophesizes, must come to pass. We as humans have no power to change it. Just like those things in our life that we have no control over, like that traffic jam, like that storm. We have no control over these things. Yet, in the end, John is able to change that. Now, a reason for this might be the fact that John was originally not supposed to be there near the Silver Bridge, having been manipulated by Ingrid Cold to visit his home in Washington, D.C., in an attempt to talk to his dead wife. Yes, like I said, Ingrid Cold has the power to manipulate humans. Probably even the power to control the souls of dead people as well. Who knows? Anyways, after saving Connie, it is revealed that 36 people died in the Silver Bridge tragedy. This immediately brings back Connie's dream and her being number 37. Thus, in a way, the probable future prophesied by Ingrid Cold had been thwarted. And this is where I felt a little let down. The sense of hopelessness the characters feel throughout the movie, of not understanding what's going on, of not being able to see the full puzzle, of being notified of things and disasters that they had no control over, only for the hero of the story to change that in the end. Maybe an optimistic end to the movie, but an unsatisfactory one for the sucker for bad endings in horror movies within me. Imagine if John had tried to save Connie only to fail and later come to know that there were 37 victims of the tragedy, realizing Connie's premonition and understanding the hopelessness of the situation. It would have been such a robust ending, establishing Mothman as a more solid horror entity. But I guess happy endings were a big part of the early 2000 movies. Okay, don't let this last part misguide you. I actually really liked the movie. I wasn't aware of Mothman or its legend or any of the lore surrounding it before watching this movie. And I'm pleased to say that now I am completely stuck, completely engrossed over urban horror folklore, like a moth is to light.